Welcome. I'm Katibe Simone. I am a soul evolution coach. My mission is to help you evolve into your best life. I'm also a speaker, a workshop facilitator, and author. I channeled an ebook with Aristotle, the famous philosopher and spirit, and published it in September 2015. It's called Teachings for the New Age, a series of channelings, and that is available for you as a free download at smashwords.com. I do recommend you read that free ebook as my gift to you. It's about how to navigate this new age, astrological age of Aquarius we are in. Today I'm going to talk about, well, first of all, today is July 28, 2019, and I'm going to review two out-of-body experiences I had. The other one occurred during the week of July 22nd, 2019. I don't exactly recall what day of the week during that week. And the other out of body I'm going to share today is one that occurred in the AM. Unfortunately, I did not recall the time that both these out of bodies ended. I usually try to chronicle that for my viewers' information. Before I go into the two out of bodies that I'm going to share, I'm just going to give you a really short background about how I came to be recording these type of videos. I had a spiritual awakening in 2009. Prior to that, I was living a very traditional life. All my life I've been a good student most of the time, and I've gone to college, married. I've been married for many, many years. I have a daughter. I've worked in corporate. I've also owned my own business, and my family members are very, let's say, not spiritually aware. I was not brought up in a background where spiritual knowledge was shared. And so when I had this spiritual awakening in 2009, it was quite overwhelming and confusing to me. What happened was I started to embark on a program of, I called it self-improvement. I didn't even know what transcendence or self-mastery was. I just wanted to improve certain aspects of my personality. I wanted to become more forgiving, more flexible, more loving, more kind. I've always been drawn to those type of characteristics in people, and even in sci-fi movies. I love to watch sci-fi movies where they would show a council of elders who were very wise, and people would come to them for their wisdom. I've always had that propensity toward that type of high-level spiritual wisdom. I never pursued it, though, because I was on the track of shoring up my profession. I majored in mathematics. I have a bachelor's in mathematics and a master's of science in accounting. And I'm also a CPA, a certified public accountant. So I have a very left brain logic orientation, and I have many years of experience and education in that as well. I'm thankful for that because it has helped me to balance myself during my spiritual awakening, so I didn't go too woohoo and become ungrounded. In 2009, I embarked on a program of self-improvement, and that turned out unexpectedly to be a spiritual awakening, which I didn't even realize at the time. I started repeating numerous affirmations with intensity and heartfelt emotion. I repeated about 80 affirmations a day, a few times a day, for a period of a few weeks. And what ended up happening is, after about 3 months of doing this, I shifted into a higher vibration. And at that time, I didn't even know what vibration was. Each one of us, including you have a baseline inner vibration. Human beings are energetic beings. We all vibrate at a certain frequency, and each person is different depending on the quality of their thoughts, their actions, their behaviors, their attitudes and beliefs. Prior to 2009, I was unawakened. I had no clue of even what the word consciousness and awareness meant. Again, I want to stress I was very much hooded and living in the illusion of the world. That was my journey to have. I don't regret having it in the way that I had it, and I don't regret at what age I became spiritually awakened. I'm so thankful I just became awakened when I did, because after I became awakened, I also awakened a few key family members, and that was part of my soul purpose prior to this incarnation. But in 2009, I even did not know what the words incarnation meant. I never even thought about past lives. I never even thought about what happened when we transitioned to the afterlife. I just was consumed, you could say, and obsessed. It was my high priority to just become educated, receive a career designation so that I would have financial security. But in 2009, after I had completed my master's in accounting, I made a promise to myself that I would focus on my inner self, and I want to improve my personality, the flaws in my personality. And that's when I started taking spiritual yoga, and I also started to meditate, and I started repeating numerous affirmations with heartfelt intensity. And these were very simple affirmations. I will give you a few examples. I am grateful. I am forgiving. I am all light. I am flexible. I go with the flow. I live in joy. These are just a few of the simple affirmations I repeated a few times a day. And after 3 to 4 months of doing this, in the spring of 2009, again, I shifted into a higher vibration. I developed psychic abilities. These abilities were always there. I just was very ignorant and unaware of them. We all have psychic abilities. It's just a matter if we are aware enough to tune into them and use them and apply them in our daily lives. For many of us, our psychic abilities lie dormant until they become activated. And for me, they became activated during my spiritual awakening. These affirmations, the program of spiritual yoga I did, which was about once or twice a week for about a 45-minute class, just rewired my thoughts. And I became more aware. I began to develop many of the psychic abilities. They're called the clairs. I developed clairvoyance, the ability to see images and have visions inside my mind and my third eye, and also in the physical space that I was existing in. I began to see orbs, people's auras. I began to see light sparks, and that's with my physical eyes during the day. And these light forms would just spark and appear automatically. These are just some of the examples of the new, or you can say awakened psychic abilities I developed. I also developed the psychic ability of clairaudience, which is the ability to hear sounds, notes, music, words, sentences, phrase, either inside my mind or in my physical environment. I often hear physical sound tones, a high-pitched ringing in either one ear or the other ear, and it could last for a period of seconds to a period of over 20 seconds. I started counting how many seconds I could hear these sound tones for, and sometimes these sound tones are occurring like high. If I were to define the source point, I would actually be able to point to and say it's coming from here, the sound, or it's coming from there, or it's coming from very close to inside my ear. Each sound tone I receive is different. Sometimes the sound tone will start in one ear and actually traverse through the middle of my head and go to the other ear, and my ears will actually experience that phenomena when you're in an airplane and when you're changing altitude. And so these type of tonings in your ears or in one or both ears is called clairaudience, and they're actually transmissions from beyond. I don't know exactly what they are because, and their content or their meaning, because I've asked telepathically and I've not received a response to date, but I'm hearing now telepathically there's some kind of information input. I told you I receive information telepathically from time to time, and I've learned to recognize this telepathy because it's not thoughts that I'm thinking at the time. They're very different on different content or subjects. So I know immediately that that is a form of telepathy, and that is a missive from, I like to refer to it as the universe, because it's not clear to me what being or what part of myself, including my higher self, is sending this telepathic information to me. I do want to share that about three nights ago. Today's July 28th, 2009. I would say maybe July 24th, 2019, before I went to bed, and that was about 10:30, 10:45. I did ask telepathically who was sending me this telepathy that I received during the day, on and off. And I heard telepathically a collective. It's a collective, and it's a collective of beings. I asked, and then I heard the word conglomerate. So it's more than one entity or one level of consciousness that is sending this to me for my benefit, for my growth, to help me in my day-to-day life, or to provide guidance to others. I also asked telepathically, well, can you give me an idea of how many beings are in this collective? I am analytical, and I do make these videos from time to time. And so I wanted to have more specific technical information to share with my viewers. And so what I did is I queried the universe. I asked, is it 0 to 5 entities that are sending me this information from beyond, that are located in a different dimension? Is it 5 to 10 entities? Is it 10 to 15 beings? And so I kind of did this range grouping. And what I felt was, when I hit 20 to 30, that's when I got a hit. It just felt right to me. It felt like it fit. And when I was going above 30 into like 40 to 50 beings that could possibly be sending this telepathy to me, I felt like the information was getting further away from me. So I feel like it's 20 to 30 beings in this collective or conglomerate that send telepathic information to me daily and regularly. It's even when I'm in an active, a relaxed state. It's before I go to bed at night. It's when I wake up in the morning. It can be when I'm driving in a car or a passenger in a car. And I also received a sort of psychic download when I was having this conversation with the universe, trying to glean more information about what the source was of my telepathy. I had a feeling that there was up to 10 beings at a time in this 20 to 30 group of collectiveness. Okay, now I'm receiving a high-pitched download in my left ear. Again, I don't know exactly what that means, but it's some kind of information input I'm hearing. And I'm hearing data collection telepathically. So in this group of 20 to 30 beings, there are up to about a range of 10 beings that kind of come in and out, where they're evolving as well. And as part of their evolvement and their training program, they are allowed access into my consciousness and are able to become part of this, I'm hearing, larger team for their learning. Everyone is evolving and learning, including these higher level intelligences. It's almost like it's infinite evolvement. And so there's up to 10 beings that actually move in and out of my core group. I'm going to wait for further validation on what I just shared with you. Again, I received this as a sort of knowingness and a psychic download a few nights ago when I asked the universe for more information. But I do like to receive further validation to make sure it's accurate. So I'll leave that with you. And then I also asked the universe, can you let me know who's in my core group of beings that send telepathy to me? I asked, is it Mr. Edgar Casey? He's a famous psychic and spirit that actually was alive and worked as a psychic during the early 1900s. And I have channeled him from time to time. So I asked if Mr. Edgar Casey was in the unit. And then I asked if Aristotle, the famous philosopher and spirit who I actually channeled a book with and published that in September 2015, if he was in my core group. And I really didn't receive validation on that. I think I can assume maybe they both are, but I don't like to make assumptions. So I'm going to wait for the universe to deliver it to me in some creative way, or through synchronicities in my life, or through straight telepathy in the near future. And then, to my surprise, as I was asking and having this sort of one-sided conversation with the universe, and with my eyes closed in bed at night, I received a clairvoyant image in my third eye. Your third eye is an energetic center, and it is located in another dimensional realm, which is why most people do not see other people's third eye. It's not like we can say, I can see your third eye like I can see your brown color hair or your red hair, or that you're a tall person, or that you are slender. So your third eye is your third eye chakra. It's energy center located in your mid eyebrow, and it vibrates in a different dimensional realm, and most people are not attuned enough to be aware of this in themselves or even in other people. But I had my eyes closed during this conversation with the universe, and in my third eye, in that space in front of your eyebrows, it's almost like a television screen or a movie screen, and I'm hearing it's like a blank slate. It's usually dark, and I do have some light activity in there. And so when I was looking through it that evening, on having this conversation with the universe to find more information about the group of beings that send me the telepathy, I saw in my third eye, with my eyes closed, a male figure from the head up, and he looked like a sheik because he had the traditional sheik hairpiece on, or head cloth on. And he looked like Jesus Christ. He had brown wavy hair and had that same slender facial features. He had lighter eyes, but I knew it wasn't Jesus because he was in a Arab sheik type headdress, and I immediately knew it was Master Katibe. Master Katibe is an ascended master, and he is the first being that I channeled and got a channeled writing piece during my spiritual awakening in 2009. So now I'm clear that Master Katibe, and I'm hearing now telepathically he's like the lead, he is part of that group of 20 to 30 people, but I'm sensing he's ongoing. He's a fixture, and he's the main leader, as I'm hearing now, in charge. And so I was very thankful for that. At least I received one being that's in that group of 20 to 30. And I also asked, wow, how can 20 to 30 beings send me telepathy? They must have one voice. And that's amazing and strange. And that's not how human beings communicate. We communicate to one person at a time. It's very linear. And then I received the psychic download that these beings communicate like a flock of birds. If you've seen a flock of birds flying in the air together, you will notice how harmonized and in sync they are, and how they could turn and in the same direction at the same time. Their movements are almost simultaneous with each other, and it's amazing how they do that, how they synchronize with each other. They don't crash into each other like I feel human beings would be doing. So they have unique form of telepathy. So that's what I was shown clairvoyantly in my third. That's what I was given as a psychic download as to my question, as to how can these beings communicate and present one single voice to me? Because when I receive my telepathy, it's my own thought voice, and it's just one voice. I don't hear 20 or 30 people talking in my mind, which is good. It would be very confusing for me if I heard that. Then I heard telepathically the word bats, B-A-T-S. And I knew that the universe was delivering to me that their communication and the way they expressed to me is very similar to the communication that bats have. I'm not an expert in bats. I don't have an affinity for bats. So the next morning when I woke up, I Googled bats, and I found out through my research on the internet that they have a very unique communication form. And actually more than one website stated that bats are the most vociferous animal species next to human beings, which is fascinating. They're the most talkative. And so that I received the word bats as a confirmation or as a way of how these beings communicate to me was fascinating, and it made sense. Another interesting fact about bats that I learned through my research on the internet was that they actually communicate in ultrasonic tones and frequencies that can't be heard. I never knew that about bats. And so they do have a very unique communication style. And now I'm being reminded telepathically that they do this type of communication called echolocation. I believe that's the term, where they actually will make a sound and they can tell by the way the sound bounces off of something and the speed at which the sound bounces off of something, where an object is. And that's how they get their prey as well. So fascinating information about bats, but again, it was delivered to me as a comparison, as an analogy to how I'm receiving information from this consortium. That's another word I've been hearing, of 20 to 30 beings, and they send me information telepathically. This is an advanced form of communication that human beings have not developed yet, obviously. And time, as more of our brains evolve, we will adapt, I'm hearing that telepathically, to be able to have these modes of communication. When you see me go like this means I'm receiving a telepathic download, okay? I'm trying to say it's coming from beyond. Oh, and that's from my consortium, now that I know that. And also, I know now that Master Katibe, the Ascended Master, is the major leader of my consortium. Thank you, Master Katibe. So these are the type of psychic skills and abilities I developed in 2009 during my spiritual awakening, and I've honed those abilities. I work on those abilities. I strengthen those abilities like a muscle. I use all my psychic senses daily because I want to have a very strong psychic intuitive sense. And as part of my spiritual awakening, after I repeated those numerous affirmations, did spiritual yoga, I developed the ability to have lucid out-of-body experiences. And since 2009, over the past 10 years, I've had numerous out-of-body experiences. I developed a conceptual framework for myself and that I share with you and others, so that you can help understand the nature of out-of-bodies and some of the parameters, associated parameters, so that you can better navigate your out-of-bodies and not struggle and be confused as I was in 2009 and for a few years after. These two out of bodies that I'm going to share today are ones are in different out of body categories. There are different types of out of bodies you can have. You can have out of bodies for your soul expansion, for learning and growth. You can have out of bodies for travel and adventure, just like taking a vacation out of your country. It's like taking a vacation. A third kind of out of body you can have is you can have an out of body to connect with your loved ones in spirit, and I have had that, and they're usually so beautiful and amazing. And I'll just leave it at that. The first category I mentioned is for your soul's growth and expansion. And I've had many out of bodies that way. I've had out of bodies where I've gone to very dark dimensional realms in my sleep state, as well as to very light realms, fun realms. So it runs the gamut, and I believe that is part of my training. I'm hearing my training. And what I mean by an out of body is that you actually, a level of your consciousness, some studies call that your astral body, is able to travel. And this usually happens when you're in a very relaxed state, like in your sleep state or in deeper states of meditation. A level of your consciousness is able to travel because it is not fearful, has left all its conditioning behind. It's able to travel to other dimensional realities that are you can say they're non-earth realities. And all these dimensions vibrate at different frequencies. Like I explained earlier, everything is energy, and these dimensions are energy, and most people are not acute enough to sense these dimensions in their day-to-day active life, and many of us have to touch base or get to know these dimensions in our altered states of consciousness when our brain waves actually slow down to other states like the beta or theta state rather than the alpha state. After my spiritual awakening, I began to remember lucid details about my dreams, and I no longer call them dreams, I call them out-of-body experiences. These experiences were often very vivid, and I had detailed recall. So the one out-of-body I'm going to share that happened a few days ago, last week, was a visit, I guess you can say, to I don't want to call it a darker dimension or a low vibrational dimension, but it was a different dimension than the earthly plane, and I'll explain why. In this out of body, I became lucid, and I was viewing one of my close family relatives, and she was actually maybe 9 or 10 years old in this out of body. In the earthly plane, she's a young adult and working, etc. But in this out of body, she appeared as a young girl, and that's a teaching point. When you have a lucid out of body, people in your life may appear in different ages. They may actually look physically different as well. So don't be surprised. And I was in an unfamiliar room, interior room, and this female family member was approaching me, and I saw that she had bare legs, like she was wearing shorts. But then when I looked closer, I saw that she was naked from the waist down, and I was surprised, and I was almost going to chide her. And then I saw, and I don't mean to be crass or gross, but I'm just detailing what I observed for educational purposes. I saw that though she was a female in this out of body, she had actually a male genitals. She had a small penis. And I was quite surprised. I couldn't believe it, because I'm lucid enough to know and lucid enough to bring forth my earthly beliefs, attitudes, what I've grown up with. And to see a female with male genitals is surprising and not the norm. Let's just put it that way. Right away, I say to my close family relative, I say, don't worry, we are going to go to a doctor right away. And then I look even more closely, and along her pelvic area, she developed some unusual growths and even a few blisters. And I thought that maybe she had some sort of sexually transmitted disease, because it was just so abnormal from what I know my earthly life as how that area should look. And again, during out of body, I was very concerned for her, and realizing I needed to take her to a doctor very quickly. And then the out of body ended, and I woke up. And I feel I woke up is because I was in emotional distress, because I'm very close to this family member, and it is distressful to see them in a form that you're not used to. That happens in out of body experiences. Teaching point number 2. What I've learned is that sometimes you have these lucid out of bodies to see different aspects of someone you know, and these might not be pleasant aspects or what we consider normal on the earthly plane, but nevertheless, I've had these type of out of bodies. I feel this is a learning out of body, and it's a learning to show me that we exist on different levels of dimension, and in these other dimensional realities, we could have different forms or different gender types. As above, so below. Teaching point number 3. Even on the earthly plane, you may have noticed, or I have observed, our society is changing and our gender types and gender categorizations are changing. There's a lot more openness about homosexuality, lesbianness, transsexuality. I don't even know all the terms, bisexuality. And as the earth and its inhabitants exhibit more of those characteristics, different from just traditional male, all female characteristics, and it's going to be reflected in these other dimensional realities. So you can say, as below, so above. Okay? Everything we do on the earthly plane, every thought, every action, every word we express has energy, and there is a ripple ramification, not only in this dimension that we exist in, but it carries over into the other dimensional realities that has a ripple effect. And I do believe there is some sort of ripple effect with sexuality and sexual types in these other dimensions, because I have experienced it. This is not the first time I've seen, observed this. This is the first time that it was with a very close family member. The other times I've observed it with people I did not know, unfamiliar human beings in these other dimensions. And I'll give you another real life example. I belong to a gym, and I've noticed I've belonged to gyms over the past many years, okay, 20 plus years. And I've noticed in the past year at this gym, there are perhaps maybe 2 or 3 other gym members, and it's hard for me to tell whether they're actually males or females. It's ambiguous to me, and they could be females and they're just very developed muscularly, or they could be males, and it's not clear to me. So I personally have noticed an increase in that in my own spheres that I circulate in and interact with. I don't want this to be a judgment piece. It is not that. I believe everyone should live their lives the way they authentically are wired to. And as long as you're not hurting anyone, as long as you're not causing violence, or being mean to others, etc. I just don't condone that. I believe everyone has a right to live their authentic life in whatever gender that might be, and even if it's a gender that is not the traditional gender. But why I shared this out of body was to show you the correlation of there's similarities between the earthly plane in terms of the changes that are going on with gender roles and gender identity, and I'm hearing gender conformity. These type of issues I, I've experienced in other dimensional realms as well. And that's huge. I think that's a huge teaching. For me, it teaches me to be aware and to make sure that to carry myself in a high vibrational manner on the earthly plane, to be as kind, loving, generous, forgiving, non-judgmental, being able to be cooperative, collaborative, understanding all those high vibrational attributes, because I want them to not only cause a ripple effect on the earthly plane, but also I know from all my out-of-body experiences that they're going to have some sort of influence on the non-earth dimensions as well. And when I say to be kind and loving and caring, compassionate, expressive, cooperative, that also includes being able to say no to people, being able to set healthy boundaries, not letting people take advantage of you, not being used by others. For me, for quite a bit of time, I confused being kind with that meant being able to be a doormat, and people, can basically have their way with you, not in a sexual way, but that would be being kind, but it's not. I've since learned that being kind and compassionate also means being kind and compassionate to yourself and being able to set healthy boundaries for your well-being and for balance for yourself. Okay, so that was the first out-of-body that I shared, and it was teaching the point as below, so above, or as above, so below, in regards to gender assignment, or I don't really want to call it gender choice, but I think you get the gist of what I'm imparting. The second out-of-body I'm going to share, it occurred early this morning, and I became lucid to find myself in an interior space with my spouse. And I'm not going to share the details of what was going on because they're non-essential. But what I'm going to share is at one part during this out-of-body, I walked into a room and there was a floor-to-ceiling window with no panes, just pure glass, and it was about 6 feet wide and maybe about 10 feet high. And it was looking out into a beautiful body of green water. And it was a huge body of water, and there were waves on it. And I noticed in front of this window, there was a thin mattress with 2 pillows propped up on the side of it. There's a mattress and 2 pillows, and then there was the window. So I realized that was a place where I was sleeping. It was a sort of hotel, and that was my sleeping arrangement. I would sleep there on that mattress in front of this large picture window and with this beautiful view. And when I looked out the window, I saw an inflatable raft that could hold possibly 4 people, and there was someone in it, and the raft was coming right toward the window because the window was this room was almost right on the water. And I almost thought that the raft was going to come through the window and into the space and just crash through the window. But the one male that was in this inflatable raft, he did this thing where it looked like he was coming right toward me, and then he did a turn, and then he got off the boat. He got off his raft. There was some sort of, sandy beach area or something like that there, which I did not see. And then I continued to look through the window, and this large window, that's really part of my hotel room. And I see this large brown and like gold colored marine vehicle. And it is very long, perhaps about 15 feet long, and it's tall. It's very tall, and it's very slender. It looked like it was only 4 or 5 feet wide and 15 feet long, and perhaps 15 feet high. And it had the iconic colors of the company UPS, the United Parcel Service. It had the iconic brown and gold lettering. And I realized it was a UPS vehicle, marine vehicle, in this other alternate dimension. and it was delivering its packages. I mean, it had packages inside of it because it was such a huge, tall, thin, very weird dimensional construction. And it was carrying the people's parcels in it. And when I looked at it, I said, "Oh my gosh, look at that! That's a UPS marine vehicle." And I wanted to get my camera and take a photo of it because it was so unique. And I realized my camera had run out of photo storage, which had really happened that day. The day prior, before going to bed. And then I looked through this huge window, and there's a second UPS vehicle, marine vehicle, with the same sort of construction and shape and size. And I was quite amazed by that. And that was the end of this lucid out of body. I shared that lucid out of body again as another teaching point, as below, so above. And many of our ways, you can say even our companies, our ways of living, our ways of socialization, they even carry over to other dimensional realms. And so in this dimensional realm, there was even a UPS company there. It just had a unique a unique marine vehicle that I used to deliver its packages. In other out of bodies that I've had months and few years ago, a lot of times I see the company Coca-Cola, which is a major, iconic American company that has been around for years, and that there is a dimensional reality of it, and another dimension is not surprising because that company has a lot of energy and has many, many customers on a global level. So it's not surprising that there would be a Coca-Cola company and other dimensional realities as well. And so there it is. There's just my second out of body. And again, it illustrates the point, as above, so below. And it also was a travel adventure out of body. It would fall into that category because of this huge, beautiful window in that room with this amazing view onto the water that was almost on top of the water, so that you could view the water activities going on. And in the earthly plane, I do love staying in places that have a water view. It's so scenic and beautiful, etc. So that part of me did carry over in this other out of body, where my likes and tendencies were again illustrated in this out of body. I hope that was helpful to you. I hope you understand your psychic senses a little better, telepathy, and how telepathy can come. I shared my experience of how I received telepathy and how it's a consortium of 20 to 30 beings, and how I actually learned who the leader of my group was, and how they communicate to me telepathically is very similar to bats, to the bat animal kingdom, which was fascinating to learn. I'm glad I asked that question. And then I also shared the out of body, where about how sexuality may be presented in other dimensional realms. And then the last out of body I shared with you is about how maybe iconic or strong companies and businesses on the earthly plane can have an alternate dimensional aspect as well. I hope that is helpful to you. If you have any relevant comments, please share in the comments below. I would love to read about that, and I look forward to communicating with you again in the near future. Namaste.